Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time we're going to be looking into the murder of Eleanor Finch from Hollow Point. She was, well, at least according to our source, Silent Shadows, a beloved piano teacher. But her life ended in a really brutal way. I mean, the contrast between who she was and how she died, it's unsettling.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? There's no sign of forced entry at the crime scene. So that kind of points to it being someone she knew, which
Yeah.
always adds another layer of complexity to a case, you know?
Yeah, it really does. It's like walking into her living room expecting to hear, I don't know, the echo of music, and instead you just find chaos, scattered books, a broken picture frame with her photo. I can't imagine what Detective Amelia Hart must felt walking into that. And she was actually Eleanor's student.
Oh, wow. Having that personal history must make the investigation even tougher. Makes you wonder how Detective Hart was able to be objective with all those personal feelings, especially right at the beginning when the focus was on Thomas Carter, Eleanor's ex-husband.
Right, he seems like the obvious initial suspect. I mean, the rumors about his temper and how bitter he was after the divorce. It paints a pretty incriminating picture.
Yeah, definitely. It makes sense why he'd be the first person they looked at. But Silent Shadows makes it clear that Detective Hart wasn't totally convinced. She noticed that even though Thomas was upset, there were these subtle inconsistencies in his body language. Like his grief seemed really genuine, which made her doubt if he was really guilty.
Huh. So she was looking for those small details. I mean, they can be so revealing. What else made her question if Thomas was really involved?
Well, the text doesn't get into specifics, but it does say that she felt like his alibi, you know, claiming he was home alone that night, it was just a little too convenient and rehearsed, almost as if he was expecting to be a suspect.
Oh, that's a good point. So if it wasn't Thomas, then who? Is this where that mysterious note comes in? The one they found in Eleanor's study?
Exactly. This is where things take a turn. That note with the message, Friday, 11 p.m., don't tell anyone, it really throws a wrench into the whole investigation. It hints that there was a secret meeting, someone Eleanor was keeping hidden.
And that secret leads to the phone records, right? The calls from that unknown number that ended up being traced back to a secluded cabin in the woods. You can just feel the tension rising when Detective Hart calls for backup and heads out there.
Yeah, the whole atmosphere shifts at this point. We go from Eleanor's home to this isolated cabin, almost shrouded in fog. It adds this layer of mystery to the story.
And danger. And it's
Yeah.
in that cabin where they find a hidden safe. With items that just make the mystery even deeper, a locket with Eleanor's initials, a photo of her with a man no one recognizes, and a letter talking about needing to be free of him. It's like every clue just brings up more questions. Who is this man? And who is she trying to get away from?
Right. That photo and the letter definitely shift the focus away from Thomas Carter. It's clear now that there was someone else in Eleanor's life, someone she was keeping secret, and this unknown person is possibly the key to solving the whole case.
Which leads us to Michael Tully, the musician who just moved to Hollow Point. He was seen with Eleanor a few times. The timing of him showing up, those conversations they were seen having, and now this photo, it all points to them having an affair.
And not just an affair. The source suggests they were planning to run away together. But according to Tully, Eleanor decided to back out at the last minute.
So now we have to figure out if he was being truthful when he denied killing her. He claimed he left her alive at the cabin that night. And on one hand, his story is believable. You know, he's heartbroken, can't face her rejection, he leaves.
Yeah.
But on the other hand,
We're left wondering if he was really as heartbroken as he claimed.
exactly. It feels like a crucial piece of the puzzle is still missing, something that could either confirm or deny if he was involved.
Well, there's one more piece of the puzzle we haven't mentioned yet, and it's a big one.
You're talking about the forensic evidence.
I am.
Let's hold that thought for a second. When we come back, we'll look into the evidence that points to Michael Tully and try to unravel the truth behind Eleanor's last moments. We left off talking about Michael Tully and whether he was involved with Eleanor's murder, and you mentioned there was some forensic evidence. What did they find?
Well, they found traces of Eleanor's blood on a lamp that was hidden in Tully's car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it pretty much contradicts his whole alibi and proves he wasn't telling the truth about leaving her alive at the cabin.
That's chilling, this everyday object, a lamp, becoming a weapon. You have to wonder what he was thinking. How heartbreak and rejection could turn into something so violent.
Yeah, it makes you think about how well you can ever really know someone and how strong emotions can sometimes make people do things they'd never normally do.
So this secret romance, with stolen glances and secret meetings, ends with this horrific act. It makes you wonder what was going through Eleanor's mind when she decided to back out of their plan to run away together. Was she having second thoughts about Tully? Or did she sense something was wrong? Was she trying to protect herself?
Hmm. That's where the letter becomes really interesting. You know how she expresses wanting to be free, wanting a life away from him, but it doesn't actually say who him is. It could be her ex-husband or it could be Tully.
Oh, so we don't know for sure. It adds another layer to the whole story. We might never fully understand what led to her decision or what happened in those final moments.
It just shows how even when you solve a case, there are always unanswered questions.
Right. There are always multiple perspectives and hidden truths.
Exactly. We're left with this puzzle. A lot of the pieces fit, but there are still gaps.
And those gaps keep us wondering and speculating.
Yeah, trying to figure out what really happened.
So even though we have a resolution, we know Tully was guilty and he was arrested, there's still this sadness, this sense of loss over the whole story.
Absolutely. Lives were cut short, dreams were shattered, and the whole community was left in shock.
And then there's that question, could any of this have been prevented?
It's easy to look back now and connect the dots, to see those warning signs and missed opportunities,
But when you're in the middle of it, things aren't so clear.
especially for those involved.
It's a reminder that even in a quiet town like Hollow Point, there can be darkness lurking beneath the surface.
And that sometimes the people closest to us can have secrets and struggles that we never really see.
Yeah, it makes you think about those small towns where everybody knows each other. You assume it's safe and secure, but like in Eleanor's case, even familiar places can be dangerous.
Absolutely. It reminds us that people can be unpredictable, no matter where you live.
It also brings us back to that question, could this have been prevented? A lot of the focus has been on Tully, but I keep thinking about Detective Hart. You know, she was Eleanor's student, so she had this personal connection to the victim, while also trying to be objective as an investigator. That must have been tough.
Yeah. It really makes you think about objectivity in law enforcement. Imagine the pressure of trying to separate your personal feelings from your duty, especially in a case like this.
Right, and it wasn't just her connection to Eleanor. She had to deal with all these relationships and conflicting stories from the suspects and trust her own gut about who was telling the truth.
Silent Shadows doesn't really criticize how Detective Hart handled things, but it does make you think about the choices she had to make. Like at the beginning when she had doubts about Thomas Carter, the book points out those little things she noticed, the inconsistencies in his alibi and how his grief felt almost, I don't know, fake.
So she was reading between the lines, looking for those clues that might reveal the truth.
Exactly. That's what makes this case so interesting. It's not just about who did it, but how and why. It's about the psychology of the people involved, the choices they made, and how those choices affected everyone else.
And maybe learning to see those warning signs, the inconsistencies, the changes in behavior, so we can step in and maybe stop something like this from happening again.
Yeah, that's a powerful idea. It shows how important it is to be aware, to have empathy, and to communicate.
So as we finish our deep dive into the murder of Eleanor Finch, we're left with a lot of sadness, but also a new appreciation for how complex people can be.
And for the challenges of trying to find justice.
And maybe even a little bit of hope that by looking at these cases and understanding the motivations, we can learn more about ourselves and the world around us. And hopefully those insights can help prevent future tragedies. So to all our listeners, we leave you with this question. What would you have done differently if you were Detective Hart? What parts of the case would you have focused on? Share your thoughts with us in the forums. We'd love to keep this conversation going. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe in time.